So the number one issue that we're going to talk about today is notice. So notice is really the most basic of coverage issues. It's really not even a substantive coverage issues. It's whether you have to give notice, to trigger your policy, and when you give notice. And it's just amazing how often we see clients and companies out there that we read about in newspaper and trade publications where they don't provide notice at all, or they provide notice late. And they've taken a great insurance policy, they've taken a claim that fits right four square within the policy, and they've completely forfeited coverage under the policy because they didn't give notice timely. It comes up more often than you would think, and it's something that is really avoidable, and something that should be addressed properly by either outside counsel or your in-house counsel. So there are two ways it comes up. Typically policies are broken down to either occurrence-based policies or claims-made policies. Occurrence-based policies are typically your commercial general liability policies and some other policies in that space. And the other group of insurance policies is what we call the claims-made insurance policies, which involves your directors and officers or your D&O policies, your employment practices liability policies, and your errors and omissions, professional malpractice, if you will, insurance policies. These operate very, very differently than occurrence-based policies with respect to notice. All of these policies will require notice be given for a claim, and that claim has to have occurred during the policy period, and the claim has to be a written complaint or some other written demand for money, typically. And secondly, notice of that claim has to be brought either in during the policy period, not 10 years later, not 15 years later, but during the policy period, or some very, very short period of time after the policy expires, maybe 30 or 60 days. So giving notice and timely notice on their claims-made policies is of utmost importance. Let me give a very recent example of how notice works and how important it is and the problems that could occur if it's not done correctly. Recently, there was a hospital that was sued related to problems or issues associated with a outside cancer diagnostic company loosely affiliated with the hospital. Lawsuit came in. Hospital gives notice to its primary insurer because at the time the primary insurer had limits of liability, the amount of insurance proceeds available of $10 million. The hospital thought that the claim was going to be resolved within $10 million. So based on that, the hospital did not give notice at the time to its excess insurers. 6 or 8 months into the litigation, the plaintiffs had amended their damage claim, and now what was thought to be a $6, $7, $8 million claim was now going to be a $20 to $30 million claim. The policyholder, the hospital system, provides notice to its excess insurers, and one of the excess insurers, providing $10 million of additional coverage, denies. Why? Because its policy very specifically says you need to provide us notice of a claim as soon as practicable, but in no event later than 30 days after you first give notice to the underlying insurance carrier. They didn't give notice for 6 months after that first notice. And based on that, the excess insurer denied coverage, $10 million. Except for that late notice, the hospital would have been entitled to $10 million more to cover the underlying lawsuit. That is a very, very good example of how notice is so important and really something that every company needs to be thinking about.